12 or 13 days or whatever. Just really happy to see our guys come out of that victorious. Of course, there's always things we can do better. I think the one thing that showed up, though, is that our quarterback has a clutch gene. St. Brown continues to show that clutch gene, and our O-line was able to finish it right there at the end. So we're excited about that, but we got a lot of work to do.
Dan brought it up Monday when we talked to him. Just like the success rate of the running backs wasn't at a level he would like it. We know the stats. Your guys have been so good this year. When they have a game that isn't up to their standard, how do you approach the following week?
Yeah, just like we approached the week before, we really have to get back to the basics. And the run game is so connected to everybody, right? And I think that's probably the most important part, is that when they do show up in those situations, you're going to get 4 or 5 opportunities in the game where everything is blocked correctly. Everything, the perimeter, the interior, those have to be explosives, right? We got to find a way to get those explosives. Not saying that happened this week, but we've got to continue to make sure that happens. And then, when there's a 4-yard run there, you got to be able to get 5, right? And that is the detail that we're going to try to continually to stay on. And as far as our details are always pretty consistent, but we want to make sure that we're tracking out the way we need to. Our paths are correct. It marries the things that we're doing in other situations, so there's no tails in everything that we do. So we'll put a fine eye on everything that we did, but we'll continue to work communication from the backfield to the front, from the front to the backfield to the perimeter. I think that'll get taken care of. And it is a standard. Let's just say this. A lot of people would say, man, you guys got 100 yards, good. Well, good is the enemy of great, as you know, and around here our standard is great. And we need to, we magnify the things that we don't quite do as well as we would like, and that's why we're great. And that's why our O-line is, where they are. But we have to be better than we were last week.
Final 4th down play when Jared tripped. Can you just explain the degree of difficulty for both Jared and David finishing that play after he starts to fall in?
I cannot explain the level of difficulty. It looked pretty tough. I mean, but they're professional athletes, man. You know what I'm saying? It's not like me going out there trying to take a handoff. I will say the level of concentration, if you watch Jared's eyes as he's looking at the handoff and David's eyes as he's looking at the mesh point, I think it was more discipline and just concentration on that detail. And to be able to do that in that moment, that's the difference in amateurs and professionals. The amateur would feel the moment as, oh my God, it's 4th and 1. I got to get this done. Whereas the true professional, it's another play for them. They're going to execute as well as they can. I really like the fact that even though he tripped, I mean, his eyes were great to the mesh point was correct. David had to go down a little bit and get it, and then he was able to finish the run with his shoulder pads down. So I don't know about the level of difficulty, but I just know that was a professional play. Yeah, very professional.
There were a handful of block attempts your guys had in that game where it seemed like the rusher was on Jared immediately. How difficult is that for a running back when the rusher comes through, particularly? I think some of those were maybe play action, and how do you think your guys handled the assignments?
Yeah, I thought they did really well in that. We were pleased with having to come from the run action position, and they were already, really in the A gap and being able to squeeze that tight. That's something that we practice. We understand that. Jared also understands that we're going to do whatever we can do to peel that guy off of him without hitting him. That's one of the hardest details of it, is when you are shaving tight in run actions, whether you're in a draw action fake or a run action fake, is that when you are trying to cut tight back across the quarterback, you can't hit him at all. Can't hit a hand, can't hit an elbow because of ball security. So you have to be as detailed as you can, be as close and as tight as you can, and then still build momentum to be able to cross-body block these guys. You're not able to get great hands on them, and you're not really able to bring your post foot with you when you do it, so you just got to basically sell out. So sometimes you get ran over with those, but the biggest deal is that JG doesn't get, he doesn't get hit. And then there's a couple other opportunities where, we had some leakage and our guys just stood in there and took, a couple of shots, which, that's what our position is. Our position, we have to protect the quarterback, we have to protect the football. So we're, it's a little bit easier when we are in the gun and we can see it. It's a true drop back situation. They do a great job of that. But now we're starting to get to the upper level of football where we can actually run action, protect us almost as well as we can in a drop back situation. So we think that they're doing a pretty good job there.
There are a lot of strengths with the 1-2 punch you got. We talked about keeping each fresh each time they step on the field and also for the home stretch, but how important was this kind of mini bye weekend for those guys?
Oh, it was important. It's always important, you know, once you've played as many games as we've played, of course. We don't talk about that. That's not what we talk about in our building. What we talk about is the details and the fundamentals that go with winning football games and making sure that we're schematically sound. But the body is the body. And I think that anytime you can, now they have to do a good job of using it. The time doesn't work. It doesn't work if you just sitting around hanging out. You got to do prehab and rehab during that time. So I think it's critical that they get in and be able to take care of their bodies. Coach does a good job throughout the year of making sure that the coaches don't overcoach and we don't physically put them in situations to where they're not their best on game day. So he's all over the top of that, and our strength and conditioning program is all over the top of it. But these 3 days were critical. Yeah.
This could possibly be a Super Bowl matchup, you know, just how good these teams have been. But playing this division, it seemed like week by week it's been big matchup after big matchup. How much does that prepare you guys for, you know, a matchup like this where on the outside it might look big, but within you guys, how have those guys prepared you for that?
I think this whole season, and I think, you know, Dan from training camp has prepared this team to be inside of the building and to be on the grass and not to play out there on the outskirts. We don't do that. We know that there's narratives that can move and drive you in different ways, but this is a football game. This is against a great opponent, no different than we had last week. A big-time football game against a great opponent. Challenges are different. You know, of course, teams are different. But this whole year has just felt, you know, he's been preparing this club for these type of moments. And not just these type of moments, but moments like 4th and 1, where we were, you know, we were all excited when it happened and when it went down because we understand what we've been prepared to do. Coaches, players, administration, everybody, we're on the same page, so we understand what's going on. So we're happy to be in these moments, and our guys understand the reason why this is a big game is because they're in it. You know, that's one big part of playing football. Wouldn't be a big football game if we weren't playing at a certain level. I got no definition for it. I tell you what, though, we're so concerned about right now and winning games. Winner, you got to be a winner, and winning games is what we're focused on. And you get acknowledged and you get noticed when you win. So I've seen it all different type of ways. So I don't really know if there's a definition because it has looked different for different people in different times. Statistically, it's been the same for some people, and some people's statistics have not been the same, and they've gotten it. So right now, as a team, we're just concentrating on the Bills and trying to figure out a way to beat these guys.
Two quarterbacks who could be in the MVP mix. I guess that's why I bring it up. And, you know, they both won a lot, obviously. How much do you think a good performance will win this week will sway voters competitively?
I mean, I'm sure it'll sway some people. You know, I think that the most important thing is that a good performance will end up probably with the W. And that probably will have the biggest sway of anybody right there. Yep. Great question.
Scottie, these are two offenses putting up 30-plus points a game. They'll never be on the field at the same time against each other. But can a great offense put pressure on another great offense in a game like this?
It happens every week, right? Offenses put pressure on offenses and defenses put pressure on defenses. It really is when you look at the totality of everything we do. And then there's the factor, probably one of the more important factors that people don't talk about is the special teams, which puts pressure on both, right? Average starting field position, those type of things gives one group or another a little bit of a slight advantage. And absolutely, you do feel the stress. There's no doubt when you are in scoring situations, you can even see it show up. Maybe not with us as much, but you can see it show up across the league in the decision-making late in games, 2-minute drills, how the clock is being used, how everything is being worked at certain times. Yeah.
Looking at it and scheming around tape this week, we all saw what the Bills did on Sunday, and maybe it wasn't their best defensive showing in a tough loss, but how much do you lean on what you're seeing more recently versus maybe successes earlier in the season?
I think it is totality, like you said before. You know, sometimes one games can be an outlier. Sometimes, you know, what you have to do is look at the meat of what they've done, and they've been pretty daggum good, right? And they can put pressure on you in different ways. They're tremendous in their front. Their 3 technique is 91 is just, I mean, it is what it is. He is special. You know, the nickel position puts a lot of pressure on. Number 7 is another great player that's out there. So we do look at what's happening recently, but when we're looking at this thing, you know, we're looking at a whole body, a year of work. So, and if it was as easy as us watching 1 or 2 games, you could say, okay, we could do this or we do that. But these guys are great coaches. They've been coached well. Coach has done a good job. It's his defense. So we know that we have our hands full and we'll be prepared.
2 more of these. Dan Campbell's leadership. What story or observation do you have that you could share that shows what kind of leader he is for this staff, this organization?
You know, I've just learned so much from him. I think, like I talked about before, vulnerability and just being truthful and transparent. You know, I never wanted to go harder for a coach, and when he came in after a tough loss this year, you know, and immediately he said it was on him, and it wasn't. You know, in his mind it was, but on all of us, there were so many plays in the game that happened. Right then, you don't see leaders do those type of things in public situations. And I think at that point in time, you know, whatever anybody else on the outside felt, we knew what it was. We know what time it is. That is a leader that, you know, you want to be in the building with. Not only that, you want to be in any fight because you know what's going to happen when it comes down to it. He's going to stand up and do what he does every single day.
Week 2, after Jahmyr had 7 catches for 22 yards, I kind of asked you about, you know, where he was growing as a receiver, and you said it was really important to get him the ball facing, you know, the defense. He's, you know, now close to matching his career total. He had the angle route. You're using him more on those flare screens. How are you seeing that development in that aspect of his game?
Yeah, so that's what we get to see, right, in practice. A lot of times, you know, people don't get to see practice, but whether we're in our one-on-one drills or we're in our RVAs, which we call routes versus air, you can just see the development of him. His feet are getting tighter. He's got much better pad level. His change of direction with full speed routes has continued to grow. So now we do feel like there's things that we can do with him. And he really, you know, with the training camp, with everything else, he really had training camp in season with some things. He does have the natural ability to run the football and speed, but there are vision things also that you have to do in the run game. And then in the pass game, really is body control. You know, a lot of times at back, you're always in control until you can burst full speed. Well, at the receiver position, you're full speed, and then you have to get body control. So it's a little bit of a difference, and he's been able to grow that. The other thing that we really like about what he's been able to do is he's catching and throwing and catching a lot more with JG between periods, different things. Just, you know, that timing, because that was a pure timing route in the game with you know, just excellent execution by both of them there.